God is somewhere around. God is somewhere around. We just can't find him. It's a tsunami just spinning around, nothing going right. And I'm like, put my life back together. And it doesn't happen. Your life doesn't go the way you want it to. Words from a little girl named Dasani, named after water. A wonderful story written about her in the New York Times this last week. Did you read that? Just poignant storytelling. I could not put it down. Sometimes the specificity of one story can make a more powerful point even than the statistics. But it's over 22,000 children homeless in New York City. Dasani's family lived in a squalid 520 square foot room, 8 kids and 2 parents, one of them a baby. We read about how brilliant she was, how feisty she was, how strong she was, about the terrible temper that she had, and some few encounters that she had with people that kind of saved her. Her principal, who saw in her such potential and promise. An athletic coach who saw her do pull-ups outside and got her involved in an activity. Her mother, Chanel, kind of a disabled addict, but who loved her baby and could see the light and polished the light into luminance. God is somewhere around, but we just can't find God. Dasani's not the only one looking for God. She's not the only one needing to be saved. We all need saving sometimes. Amen? We need to be rescued from heartbreak. We need to be redeemed from despair. We need to be saved from poverty and homelessness and hunger and the violence that's done to our spirits because we simply just want to be ourselves in a world that wants carbon-copied, straight white people. No offense to those guys. We want just to have life and have it more abundantly, the ability to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. We can't get it. You can't always get what you want. And so, all of us need saving sometime. I love this story about Mary, and you know, the whole Christmas thing is wrapped around this story about Mary, a young girl of marrying age, engaged to Joseph, betrothed to Joseph, who has a close encounter with an angel, who tells her she's going to bear the Christ child into the world. And she says something like, "How can that be?" And the angel explains, the power of spirit is going to come over you. You will be overcome with power from on high, and then you will, and I like the Greek better, the Greek says you will, it's almost like cook something up. No kidding. It says you will get it together. You will get it together inside. And then it says, and you will bring forth a thing that will be called holy. Gotta read a little Greek every now and then. A holy thing was gonna come out of her body. And she said yes to that. Put herself at risk. Her husband to be, Joseph, having not had sex with her, there's no children in the, sorry, John Luke, having not known her, could have stoned her to death. Seriously, divorced her for it seeming that she had committed adultery. He doesn't. And Mary goes off to visit her relative, Elizabeth, and when she sees her, the baby inside Elizabeth leaps, is how the story goes. And what that is for Mary is a confirmation that the thing the angel said was true. Because if my old auntie Elizabeth can get pregnant, then I guess my young self can too. It's an amazing story, an amazing story. There's a whole lot of people out there looking for God. A whole lot of people out there needing to be saved. Maybe some of them in this room, needing a way out, a way through, a path around, an uplifted spirit, some kind of star to guide your way to the future. And I'm here to tell you tonight that we don't get saved just by praying to God. We get saved by the good and powerful and strong and committed acts of human beings. So says the Christian pastor in the Christian church. Let me tell you what I think we need to do. I think we need to tell stories to each other about the ways we've been rescued, the ways we've been snatched back, the ways we've been dragged out, the ways we've been stood up. We need to testify, is an old-fashioned word, about all of the ways we've seen the miracles happen and know that they can. You don't have to be a Christian to experience a miracle. You don't have to be a faithful person to experience a miracle. Miracles happen every day. And I think it's our job to tell folks about how able our God is to do God's thing in the world. My mama used to sing a song, "Don't you know God is able? He's able, God is able, yes, he's able." In the South, God was always a he with a capital H. The song said, "Clouds may gather around you, dark and disabling, but God will be a friend for the friendless, a mother for the motherless. He'll be their mighty battle axe. Surely, surely God is able to carry you through." I've got a testimony. Some of you know it already, but I was 22 years old and driving across Canada to a wedding with my beau, Mike. We were young, we were silly, and we didn't have our seatbelts on. When the tire blew out of the car and spun it around this way, 360 degrees several times, and it bounced on the sunroof, which was off. The only thing holding us in the car was Mike's hands like this across the roof. And the car bounced 3 times, skidded across the asphalt, and landed on the tires in a screech of metal. Glass and blood everywhere. And what happens? A bus full of boys on the way to a basketball game in Detroit get out of their bus and come over to the car, and they find my little green Bible that has been tossed out of the glove compartment. And they say, here, Miss Lady, this saved you." No, it didn't. That Bible didn't save me, but God saved me. God did not stop the car from flipping. It flipped. And it was terrifying. But there was a 5-lane highway of cars going at 65, 75 miles an hour, and nothing hit us. And we walked into that ambulance. When Gabriel visited Mary and told her she would be cooking something, putting something together in her womb, he was talking about a miracle and how miracles come true. You have a miraculous story to tell. I'm not talking about got an A on your final. That might be miraculous in the moment. But you know how you needed to make ends meet, and you did. You know how sad you were that day and your friend called just at the right time. You know how lost you felt and didn't think you'd ever find a partner to love, and then somebody showed up who seemed to be tailor-made just for you. That sense of wonder and awe that we have when things turn around, we're sick and we get well, we're praying for a miracle. And it happens. You have a testimony to tell. It's your story. And when you tell it, it's contagious. When you tell it, you make God's power real to somebody who needs to know it. Now look, it's embarrassing to tell stories about God's work in our life. I know. And I'm a professional preacher. When those people knock on the door with the tracts, you feel like you want to close the curtains and hide from them. But I'm really proud of the bravery to go out in the cold and say, look, there's a power outside of me that can do something awesome. If you don't feel like knocking on doors, When you have a chance to tweet your friends some good news, tweet your friends some good news. And if you need to, send my colleague Adrian's care blog out. It comes out once a month. Or use our weekly listserv and put a note on top and say, look, there's something good happening here. Tell the story about what God is doing, because somebody who needs to be saved needs to know that there's a God. I think the second thing that's important to remember, in my irreverent way I'm alluding to, God, I believe there's a God, but it doesn't really seem like that God is a puppeteer. It doesn't really seem to me that that God just moves us around and just makes us do stuff. In fact, it seems to me that God uses ordinary, regular folk to do the saving that I'm talking about. Now, let me be clear. I'm not talking about saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Spirit that you might hear in some congregation. That's a good thing. I'm talking about saved from life. I'm talking about saved from despair. I'm talking about saved from lost. I'm talking about found. God uses people, ordinary people, to save folk. 25 years ago, a man named John, an ex-con named John, started the Celebrate Life meal here at Middle Collegiate Church. He wanted people who were dying from HIV/AIDS to have a hot meal on a Monday night and a place for social services and a sense of love and belonging, and to know that they were not ostracized and stigmatized and that they were welcome in this place. And then he started a street fair out on 2nd Avenue to pay for the meal. 25 years later, we still do that street fair. And when our building is finished, we're going to do that meal again, just because John thought so, said so. One of our members named Anita Branham would walk by Tompkins Square Park after church and notice that the people were hungry in the park benches, and she decided that we needed to do a little thing called butterfly. They started making 25 sandwiches and then 50. And now we make 100, 200 that goes to Tompkins Square Park and also to Union Square. We don't ask if you're hungry. We just pass out the food. Ordinary people doing an extraordinary kind thing. Today, we kicked off our soul food truck. This is one of my favorite stories. Renee and Keely were just dating when I got here. And then when marriage equality happened in New York, I got to marry them, a lovely couple. They were so inspired by the sermons we were preaching here about God's economy and how everybody should have enough, that they started a food pantry in a property that they own in East New York. And then they bought a truck, and they used the truck, to make money. But they donated the truck's use on Sundays so we can give hot food out to the park. Isn't that amazing? Ordinary people saying yes to some kind of voice, some kind of call on their life. That's not the only thing that happens here in this community. Some of our regular people use their own money to go to New Orleans to pull down moldy walls and help rebuild after Katrina. Still others go out to the Rockaways to deal with Sandy and to make sure that the children have joy and food and fun. All kinds of people do all kinds of things. They write plays, they put on musicals, they fold the bulletins and fold the newsletters, they mentor our children. And that's just what happens in this room. That says nothing about what they and you do out in the world that makes a light shine a little brighter. That's what I mean by ordinary people. Ordinary people knowing that the world needs hope and light and joy, being willing to stand in and stand up and do it. March down Fifth Avenue in the Pride March and risk being called gay. Not a risk to me, but for some straight people, that's like, ooh, I don't know what they'll think about me. But we do it anyway. Getting on the bus to go to Washington, D.C., to stand up against gun violence. It's a place of many justice works, and I'm really proud. Those of you who come on Sunday night, some of you are new to our community, I invite you to think about what's your job? What's the job that you're called to do in the world and in this place? Check out the website, middlechurch.org, and find a way to volunteer. We need you. God needs you in the business of saving. The last thing I want to talk about, and I think this is just true as well. Saving folks costs a little money. Some of our people are very, very generous about giving. Some of them are very, very poor and give a tenth of their income to make sure we can run ministry. That's shocking. You could be buying groceries with that 10%, but they make a donation. Some of our people are very, very wealthy, and they put middle in their budget. And we have everybody in between. Saving people costs money. This worship celebration, to turn the lights on, to have the music, to have it happen here, this is a $500 to $1,000 a week moment. So that's something that we budget for because it matters to us. What I want to say to you tonight that I said this morning is that the work that we're doing back here, so that our vision statement that says, you're welcome just as you are as you come through the door, can happen. Like you can get in our door, but you can't get up the stairs. So we're building an elevator and we're making it accessible. That costs money as well. So the funds we raise help offset that cost. I'm inviting you to think about how money matters, how generosity matters, how what we do with our treasure matters. One of our members helped buy a sound system so we could actually broadcast worship and you could actually hear what was happening. Another member doubled her contribution because she knew we were going to increase our feeding ministry. And you know what we've done? We've created food coupons now so that anybody on staff that sees anybody on the street that's hungry can give them a coupon to Met Foods across the street. And they will get a sandwich and a piece of fruit and a healthy drink just because they're hungry for it. I think that's lovely. I think that deserves a hand. One of our little children, Emma Wu, is a designer. She has a notebook full of prom dresses to be and tutu-inspired little outfits. But she also designed a T-shirt. And the T-shirt says something like, girl power, woo-hoo, like woo-hoo. And she wants these T-shirts to help raise money for girls around the world. But right now, she's charging us $20 for the designer shirt. But 10% of that goes in her bank, and then it goes to the church. Isn't that lovely? On the day I had that terrible car crash, on the day the glass was in my mouth and the blood was streaming, they kept my honey at the hospital, but I was assigned to call the parents. So I'm calling, and I couldn't get anybody. And I'm standing at the payphone weeping because I don't have any money. We're 22 years old. You got $50. You got a $50 to buy gas and some food. No money. No money. And I'm weeping. Where am I going to stay? What am I going to do? The car is totaled. A woman started staring at me, and then she walked over to me and said, "Sweetie, what's the matter with you?" I'm like, I got nothing. My beau's in the hospital. I don't have any place to stay tonight. I don't know what I'm going to do. She said, "Come with me." She took me to a hotel. She checked me in. She paid the bill. She took me to get food. She bought me toothpaste and toiletries so that I could spend the night. And the next day, she picked me up and took me to rent a car and then took me to the insurance. She didn't know me, but her generosity saved me. It saved me. So pick a place to give to. The United Negro College Fund, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Or the American Cancer Society, because cancer is an epidemic. Or the Children's Defense Fund, because they do stunning things for kids. Or the American Red Cross, who shows up all the time at every disaster. Or, hey, you can give to Middle Church if you like. We're going to keep on doing amazing works of justice, and we'd love to have your help. This Christmas story is bastardized with commercialism and perhaps overly illustrated with angels singing on Christmas cards. There's a girl. She's visited by an angel. She's supposed to cook something up or get it together. And the thing that's going to come out of her is a holy thing. I'm no angel, but I'm here to tell you that just as much as Mary was, we are, each of us, called to cook something up, to get it together. And the thing that is going to come out of each of us, out of our heart's desire, out of the gifts we've been given, out of the opportunities we have with strangers and friends and family, that thing that's going to come out of us is a holy thing. You know, you don't have to have the virgin birth story for the thing that comes out of you to be holy. My prayer for you, as we get ready to hear another beautiful piece of music, believe in miracles. Believe in the miracle of your own destiny and power, goodness and light. And you've got something precious that someone needs, so they'll be saved. Deep breathing. Please give it life.